close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a forest, just after midnight. The sky above is the deepest shade of blue it ever gets. That quiet, velvet hour when the day has fully let go and the night has completely settled in. You can feel it, can't you? That shift in the air, that strange, ancient stillness. But here's something most people never realize. The forest isn't still at all. Right now, in the darkness between the trees, an entire world is wide awake, and it has been waiting for you to fall asleep so it could begin. Let's walk in together. The first thing you'd notice, if your eyes could adjust, is the light. Not moonlight, not starlight, but something softer, something rising from the ground itself. Fact 1. Certain species of bioluminescent fungi glow a faint, cold green in the dark. Called foxfire, this quiet light is caused by a chemical reaction within the fungus as it slowly breaks down decaying wood. On a moonless night, deep in an old forest, you can sometimes read by it if you hold the page close enough. Entire fallen logs pulse with it, like embers that never burn out. You take a step forward, and beneath your foot, the ground gives soft cushion like the earth is exhaling. Fact 2. The forest floor is one of the most complex structures on the planet. What feels like dirt is actually a layered world. Decomposing leaves, fungal networks, ancient root systems, and millions of microscopic organisms, all working together in near-perfect silence. A single handful of healthy forest soil contains more individual living organisms than there are human beings on Earth. Beneath your feet, right now, life is endlessly, quietly doing its work. You breathe in, and the air is different here. Cooler, cleaner, almost sweet in a way you can't quite name. Fact 3. Trees release something called phytoncides, natural airborne compounds that, when we breathe them in, have been scientifically shown to lower cortisol levels, reduce heart rate, and ease anxiety. The Japanese have a practice called Shinrin-yoku, which translates simply to forest bathing, the act of walking slowly through trees with no destination, just breathing. Studies show that even 2 hours in a forest can measurably calm the nervous system for days afterward. The forest is, in the most literal sense, medicine for a tired mind. Somewhere ahead, a branch shifts. You stop, you wait, and then you see it. A pair of enormous amber eyes floating silently in the dark. Fact 4. The tawny owl has eyes so large relative to its skull that they cannot move in their sockets at all. Instead, the owl can rotate its entire head up to 270 degrees to track sound and movement. But perhaps more remarkable is this. Owls' ears are set asymmetrically on their heads, one higher than the other, which allows them to triangulate the exact location of a sound in three-dimensional space. A barn owl hunting in complete darkness makes no visual adjustments at all. It navigates entirely by sound. The eyes blink slowly, and the shape dissolves back into the trees without a sound. The wind moves through the canopy overhead, a long, low sigh through 10,000 leaves, and the trees lean, just slightly, toward each other. Fact 5. This is not your imagination. Trees in forests actually do lean. Researchers have observed that trees in dense woodland grow specifically toward gaps of light. And in old-growth forests, the tallest trees develop a kind of gentle crown shyness, where their uppermost branches stop growing just before they touch a neighbor's. From below, you can look straight up and see the sky traced between them in perfect, unbroken lines, as if the trees have agreed, quietly, to give each other space. You sit down against the base of a wide, old oak. The bark is rough and warm against your back, still holding the last of the day's heat. Fact 6. Oak trees are among the most generous hosts in any forest ecosystem. A single mature oak can support over 500 different species of insects, birds, lichens, and fungi across its lifetime. They live for centuries, some for over 1,000 years, and the older they get, the more life they carry. The wrinkled, cracked bark you're resting against isn't decay. It's a neighborhood, an address for hundreds of creatures who call this one tree home. You lean your head back. The canopy sways. Far above, between the branches, a single star appears. Then another. The forest around you settles into its rhythms. The soft percussion of something small moving through the undergrowth, the long-drawn breath of the wind, the distant murmur of water somewhere you can't see. Fact 7. Running water can often be heard before it can be found in a forest at night because sound travels differently in the dark. With fewer daytime distractions, no bird song, no wind gusts, no rustling of large animals. The acoustic landscape of a forest after midnight is measurably quieter in some frequencies and richer in others. The low, sustained sounds, water, distant frogs, the hum of the earth itself, carry farther and clearer than they ever do in daylight. The forest at midnight is the best listener it ever is. So let your breathing slow, let your body sink. You are here at the edge of something ancient and unhurried, and the forest has been doing this, quietly, faithfully, without you, for longer than anyone can remember. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. The foxfire is glowing in the roots of a fallen tree just ahead. The owl has settled on its branch. The oak is holding its 1,000 small lives, and the forest breathes on. We'll keep walking soon. There's so much more ahead in the dark. But for now, just rest here at the edge of the trees. You follow the sound. That's always how it works in a forest at night. You don't choose a direction so much as you're drawn by sound, by the shift in the air, by something wordless that pulls you forward through the dark. The ground slopes gently downward now. The trees thin a little, and ahead, catching whatever faint light filters through the canopy, a stream appears, narrow, unhurried, moving over smooth stones with the most patient sound in the world. You find a soft place at the bank and settle in. The water doesn't know you're watching. It just keeps going. Fact 8. Streams and rivers and forests rarely sleep. The organisms living within them, insects, larvae, small fish, microscopic creatures, are some of the most active in the entire ecosystem during the nighttime hours. Many aquatic insects hatch exclusively after dark. Mayflies, caddis fleas, stoneflies, they emerge from the water at night in their hundreds, taking to the air for the only few hours of their adult lives, drawn toward any available light. What looks like a quiet, empty stream at midnight is, just beneath the surface, a city in full motion. Something moves across the water, a ripple, low and deliberate. You watch it, an oval shape, a flat tail, and then it's gone beneath the surface without a splash. Fact 9. Beavers are almost entirely nocturnal. Their most important engineering work, felling trees, reinforcing dams, stocking their underwater food caches for winter, happens in the hours between dusk and dawn. A single beaver can fell a tree with a trunk 10 centimeters wide in under 15 minutes. Their dams, some stretching hundreds of meters, create entirely new ecosystems. The ponds that form behind them become home to herons, otters, frogs, dragonflies, and dozens of species of waterfowl who would otherwise have nowhere to go. One animal, working quietly in the dark, reshapes the world around it. The ripples from the beaver reach the far bank and fade into nothing. You look down at the water. In the stillness, you can almost see the sky reflected, a faint smear of stars, the dark shapes of the trees on either side leaning in over the surface like they're looking at themselves. Fact 10. Water in motion produces something called negative ions, electrically charged particles that are generated wherever water breaks against stone, falls, or moves quickly. Negative ions have been linked in research to elevated serotonin levels and immeasurable reduction in anxiety. This is part of why sitting beside moving water feels almost immediately like something releasing in your chest. Your body recognizes the sound. Something deep in you has always known that running water means safety, rest, and that you can put down whatever you've been carrying. The frogs tonight are setting the tone. Fact 11. Frogs don't drink water the way you do. They absorb it directly through a specialized patch of permeable skin on their belly and inner thighs, called the drinking patch. When a frog sits at a stream's edge looking perfectly, blissfully still, it isn't just resting. It is drinking the entire forest, pulling water up into itself through the earth it sits on. There is something extraordinarily peaceful about that image. An animal so at home in its environment that it takes nourishment simply by being present in it. A mist is beginning to form at the water's surface, a soft, low cloud moving slowly downstream, curling around the roots of the trees at the bank's edge. It turns the stream into something dreamlike, a ribbon of fog in the dark. Fact 12. This mist is called steam fog, or sometimes evaporation fog. It forms when the air just above a body of water is warmer than the air above it. After midnight, as the land cools rapidly, the water, which holds its heat longer, gives off vapor that condenses the moment it rises. It is the stream breathing. You're watching the water exhale. On still, moonlit nights, this fog can stretch for kilometers above a river's course, glowing faintly silver, giving the landscape the look of something between this world and another. You stretch out your hand and let the mist move through your fingers. It's cold, then warmer, then cold again as it passes. Somewhere in the trees behind you, something has been watching the water all along. Fact 13. Herons are famous for their absolute stillness. A gray heron hunting at a night stream will stand motionless for so long that other animals forget it is there entirely. It does not fidget. It does not shift its weight. It simply waits with a patience that most living creatures can barely comprehend. Scientists studying heron behavior have observed single birds maintaining hunting postures for over an hour without a single movement. There's a kind of wisdom in that. The heron does not chase. It creates the conditions for what it needs, and then it trusts the waiting. The mist thickens. The frog calls go quiet, one by one. The stream moves on, the way it always has, over the same stones it has crossed for decades, wearing them smooth with its passing, carrying a little of this forest with it, always towards somewhere far downstream. Fact 14. Streams carry memory. The sediment in a river's bed holds pollen, spores, plant matter, and mineral traces that, when studied, can tell scientists what a forest looked like hundreds or thousands of years ago. Core samples taken from lake beds at the end of slow-moving streams have revealed the entire ecological history of a region, which trees dominated in which centuries, when fires passed through, when the climate shifted. The water has been paying attention the whole time, quietly collecting everything, letting nothing go. You lean back. The mist drifts past. A single leaf, carried from somewhere upstream, passes in front of you and disappears around the bend. There is no reason to follow it. There is nowhere to be but here, at the bank of this small, ancient stream, in the middle of a dark forest that is breathing and watching and quietly going about its endless, patient work. Let the sound of the water settle into you. Let it carry whatever's left of the day downstream. The heron is still. The beaver has gone deep. The frogs have quieted. And the forest floor beneath you holds the cold and the damp and the dark, and all of it, every last bit of it, is exactly as it should be. We'll move on soon, deeper into the older part of the trees. But stay here a moment longer. Just listen. You leave the stream behind. Not because you want to, but because the forest is pulling you again, that same wordless draw, further in, further back, into the part of the woods where the trees are older and the ground is darker, and the air carries something heavier than just night. The trees here are different. You can feel it before you can see it. The canopy is higher. The trunks are wider, some of them broader than a doorway, some broader than a room. The bark has gone from rough to deeply furrowed, carved by decades into something that looks almost like faces, almost like language, almost like something that was trying to tell you something a very long time ago, and gave up waiting and simply became the shape of patience instead. These are the old trees, and they have been here quietly, monumentally, without a single apology for taking up space, for longer than most human institutions have existed. Fact 15. The oldest known individual tree in the world is a bristlecone pine in the White Mountains of California named Methuselah. It is over 4,800 years old. When this tree was already a century old, the Egyptian pyramids had not yet been built. It has survived droughts, ice ages, disease, lightning, and millennia of human history simply by growing slowly, very slowly, in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Thin soil, brutal cold, almost no rainfall. Survival, it turns out, sometimes looks like barely moving at all. You place your hand on the nearest trunk. The bark is cool, dry, and underneath your palm, you could almost swear, if you stood here long enough, if you quieted everything else, that something very faint is moving. Not a heartbeat exactly, but something rhythmic. Something that takes a very long time between one pulse and the next. Fact 16. Trees do have something like a pulse. Water travels from the roots to the topmost leaves through a system of internal channels called the xylem. And this movement follows a daily rhythm, rising with the sun and slowing at night. In large trees, this flow can be measured. At peak times, a single large oak may move hundreds of liters of water from root to canopy in a single day, all of it pulled upward by the process of transpiration. Each leaf releasing a little water into the air, creating a gentle suction that draws more water up from the ground below. The tree drinks through its feet and breathes through its leaves. Right now, in the dark, the whole system is slowed to its night pace, resting but never completely still. You walk further in, and the ground underfoot changes. There is more root here than soil. Great arching root buttresses rise from the earth like the bases of cathedral pillars. And between them, the dark is so complete that you navigate as much by feeling as by sight. Something about this place feels inhabited in a way that goes beyond the animals you've already passed. Fact 17, it does. Beneath your feet, threading through every centimeter of forest soil, is a network of fungal threads called mycelium. Some individual networks stretching for miles without a break. These threads connect the root systems of trees across enormous distances, allowing them to pass water, carbon, and nutrients between each other. Trees in need receive, trees in surplus give. This network, sometimes called the wood wide web, has been shown to allow a dying tree to transfer its remaining resources to its neighbors before it goes. Not randomly, but preferentially, parent trees have been observed routing extra carbon specifically to their own seedlings growing in the shade below. The forest, it turns out, has always known something about taking care of its own. Fact 18. The scientist who first brought widespread attention to this underground network was a forest ecologist named Suzanne Samar, who spent decades in Canadian old-growth forests measuring how carbon moved between trees. What she found overturned decades of accepted theory. Trees were not simply competing for resources, as had long been assumed. They were cooperating, sharing, And the oldest trees, the ones she called mother trees, were at the center of the most connections, linked to hundreds of younger trees simultaneously, feeding and monitoring and redistributing across the whole community. When a mother tree is cut down, the network around her doesn't simply lose a member. It loses its hub, and the trees connected to her go into measurable decline. You stop walking. Above you, through a rare gap in the canopy, the sky opens up, a dark bowl scattered with stars, the Milky Way a pale smear across the center of it. For a moment, you forget the trees entirely. You just look up, and then something crosses that gap, a silent shape on wide, pale wings, there and gone in a second. Fact 19, moths navigate by the stars. Or more precisely, they navigate by maintaining a fixed angle to a distant light source, a system that works perfectly in a world where the only lights are the moon and the stars, because those lights are so far away that the angle barely changes as you move. It's called transverse orientation, and it allows a moth to fly in a perfectly straight line for miles. The reason moths spiral hopelessly around a light bulb is that the bulb is close. So as the moth tries to maintain its fixed angle to the light, the angle keeps changing and the moth keeps correcting, spiraling tighter and tighter in a loop it cannot escape. Every moth drawn to a flame is not being reckless. It is being catastrophically precise about something that no longer makes sense in a world full of artificial light. You lower your gaze. There's a fallen tree nearby, enormous on its side, its root ball ripped from the earth and standing vertical like a dark wall. It must have come down years ago, maybe decades. Moss covers it entirely now, thick and green-black in the dark, soft as a pillow. Where it fell, it left a long, gentle mound rising from the forest floor, what foresters call a nurse log. Fact 20. When a large tree falls in an old-growth forest, it doesn't disappear. It becomes something else. A nurse log, a fallen trunk slowly returning to soil, can take over 200 years to fully decompose, and during that entire time it acts as an incubator for new life. The raised surface keeps seedlings above the competitive tangle of the forest floor. The decaying wood holds moisture like sponge. The fungi already working through the log provide a ready-made nutrient network for young roots to tap into. Walk through any ancient forest and you will find rows of young trees growing in perfect, evenly spaced lines, each one growing from the same long-gone nurse log, carrying the shape of something that died centuries ago in the way they stand. Fact 21. The smell of the forest floor at night, that deep, rich, complex scent that fills your lungs when you breathe in close to the earth, has a name for the compound largely responsible for it: geosmin. It is produced by soil bacteria called actinomycetes as they break down organic matter, and it is one of the most powerfully detected scents in the natural world. Human beings can detect geosmin at concentrations of just 5 parts per trillion. We are more sensitive to it than sharks are to blood and water. Scientists believe this extraordinary sensitivity evolved because the smell of healthy, wet soil indicated to our ancestors the presence of fresh water and fertile ground, everything needed to survive. When the forest floor smells like rain and earth and something ancient, your body recognizes it as home. You lean against the nurse log. The moss is exactly as soft as it looked. Above you, the old trees hold their canopy like a roof, like a promise. The mycelium pulses slowly beneath you. The moth has long since disappeared into the dark on its precise, star-guided path. You are resting in the oldest room in the world, built over centuries, tended by things that have no word for hurry. Let your eyes close if they want to. The old trees have been standing here since before you arrived, and they will go on standing long after you've slept. That's not a sad thought. That is the most restful thought there is. There's still so much forest ahead, but there is no rush. The night is long and unhurried, and it was made for exactly this. Stay where you are. You don't need to go anywhere, because the most extraordinary part of this forest isn't above you. It isn't even around you. It's beneath you, just a few inches below the moss you're resting on, below the nurse log, below the soft tangle of roots. The world continues, downward, inward, into the dark that never sees a single ray of light, where entirely different rules apply, and time moves differently than it does up here. We're going under. Not literally. You can stay exactly where you are, warm and still and resting against the old wood. But let your mind go down through the moss, down through the leaf litter, down through the first dark layer of soil, rich and black and humming with life. Down past the roots, down into the stone. Fact 22. The topsoil of a healthy old-growth forest is one of the most biologically dense environments on the planet. A single teaspoon, just one small teaspoon, of forest soil contains somewhere between 100 million and 1 billion individual bacteria. Not species, individual organisms. Add to that the fungi, the nematodes, the protozoa, the mites, the springtails, and dozens of other microscopic creatures, and what you're resting on is less like ground and more like an ocean, teeming, layered, ancient, and almost entirely invisible to the human eye. Fact 23. Earthworms are among the most important engineers of this underground world, and Charles Darwin, who spent the last 40 years of his life studying them, called them one of the most important animals in the history of the world. A single earthworm ingests soil, extracts nutrients from it, and leaves behind castings that are 5 times richer in nitrogen, 7 times richer in phosphorus, and 11 times richer in potassium than the soil around them. In a healthy forest, earthworms collectively turn over several tons of soil per acre every year, aerating it, enriching it, pulling organic matter downward from the surface and drawing minerals upward from below. The forest feeds its trees. The earthworms feed the forest. And they do it all in absolute, lightless silence. Deeper, below the reach of the roots, below even the deepest taproot driving down through the dark, the soil gives way to something older, something that was here long before the first seed fell in this forest. Fact 24. The bedrock beneath the forest is not simply stone. It is a slow participant in the life above it. Tree roots, particularly the finest, hair-like root tips, actually secrete mild acids that, over decades and centuries, dissolve the surface of rock, releasing minerals that the tree then absorbs. This process, called weathering, is partly responsible for the creation of the very soil the forest stands in. Given enough time, a forest quite literally makes the ground it grows from. The stone becomes the soil, becomes the tree, becomes the leaf, becomes the forest floor, becomes the stone again. A cycle so slow it makes seasons look impatient. Fact 25. Beneath many forests, particularly in limestone regions, there are cave systems, sometimes enormous ones, carved over millennia by water moving through the rock. These underground worlds have their own ecosystems entirely disconnected from the surface above. Blind cave fish, translucent cave crickets, pale cave spiders, creatures that have never once seen light and have, over thousands of generations, lost the need for it entirely. Their eyes have faded to vestigial dots or disappeared altogether. Their skin has gone colorless. They navigate by pressure and vibration and the faintest chemical traces in the water. They are living proof that life does not require light. That given enough time, life will find a way to thrive in absolute darkness and call a home. Somewhere between the roots and the rock, in the in-between layer where soil meets stone, something is sleeping. Not resting, not waiting, sleeping in the truest, deepest sense of the word. Fact 26. Many animals hibernate beneath the forest floor, and the physiology of true hibernation is one of the most remarkable things a warm-blooded creature can do. A hibernating hedgehog, curled in a nest of leaves just below the frost line, drops its body temperature to within a degree or two of the air around it. Its heart rate falls from roughly 190 beats per minute to fewer than 20. Its breathing slows to just a few breaths per minute. Its metabolism drops to less than 5% of its normal rate. And yet, it is not dead, and it is not simply sleeping. It is doing something for which we don't have a perfect word. A suspension, a long, slow bow toward the cold, with the absolute certainty of spring on the other side. Fact 27. Bats hibernate too, but their experience of it is different from almost any other hibernating animal. A hibernating bat, hanging upside down in a cave or hollow tree, can survive entirely on its stored fat reserved for 6 to 8 months. But every few weeks it wakes briefly, not to eat but to drink, to groom, and remarkably, to dream. Bats in torpor have been observed entering REM sleep, the stage of sleep associated with dreaming in humans, before cooling back down and dropping into deep hibernation again. We don't know what a bat dreams about, but somewhere beneath this forest, right now, in the hollow of one of the old trees or tucked under a root in the dark, something small and velvet-winged is having a dream, and then letting it go, and sinking back down into the long, patient dark. You breathe in, the air down here, even up here at the surface, pressed against the nurse log, carries the smell of the deep earth. That geosmin again, that ancient, mineral, living smell. The smell of soil bacteria doing their quiet work. The smell of rock becoming ground, becoming root, becoming tree. Fact 28. The forest floor processes death extraordinarily efficiently. A fallen leaf, in the right conditions of moisture and temperature, can be entirely decomposed, reduced to its component minerals and gases, returned completely to the soil within a single year. A fallen tree takes longer, but every stage of its decay hosts different organisms uniquely adapted to that stage. Fresh would host certain beetles. Softer, moister would host others. Fungi arrive in sequence, each species following the one before it. The very last stage of decomposition, where the wood has become almost indistinguishable from the dark soil around it, is handled by organisms so small they are invisible to the naked eye. The forest wastes nothing. Everything that was ever alive here is still here, in one form or another, cycling slowly through the earth, waiting to be something else. Fact 29. This process has a name, nutrient cycling, and it is the reason old-growth forests are so extraordinarily rich compared to younger ones. Every century of accumulated decomposition adds another layer of depth to the soil, another store of mineral wealth for the roots to draw on. A forest that has been left undisturbed for 500 years has 500 years of fallen leaves and rotted wood and dissolved bone and shed bark store beneath it, all of it broken down and banked and available. The old forest is not just old, it is wealthy in the deepest possible sense, carrying the compounded interest of centuries paid in full in the ground beneath your hands. Let yourself rise with it. Back up through the layers, back through the stone, back through the mineral dark, back through the roots and the mycelium and the teeming microscopic ocean, back through the soft black soil, back to the moss, back to the nurse log, back to the surface of things. The hibernating hedgehog is still down there, heart beating once every few seconds in the cold and the dark. The bat is dreaming. The earthworms are turning the earth over grain by grain in absolute silence. And the forest above, the living, breathing, sighing forest, is standing on top of all of it, rooted in centuries, patient as stone. You are resting on the surface of something extraordinarily deep, and everything beneath you is holding you up. You've been down in the deep. Now come up, not all the way to waking. Stay loose, stay soft, stay in that warm place between knowing and dreaming. But let your mind rise, the way heat rises, the way mist rises from the stream, up through the canopy, up past the highest branches of the oldest trees, up into the open air above the forest. Up here, the world is different again. The trees below look like something soft and continuous, a dark, breathing surface stretching in every direction, rolling gently with the topography of the land beneath. From up here, you can see the whole forest at once, the way it fills the valley, the way it thins at the ridgeline, the way the stream you sat beside earlier catches what little light is available and holds it, a silver thread through the dark. And above all of that, the sky, wide and cold and impossibly full of stars. Fact 30. On a clear night far from artificial light, the human eye can see approximately 2,000 stars with the naked eye. But the Milky Way alone contains somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars. What you're seeing on the clearest night of your life is a fraction of what is actually there. And yet it is enough. It has always been enough. For the entirety of human history, until very recently, every person who ever lived fell asleep under a sky exactly this full every single night. The stars were the last thing our ancestors saw before sleeping and the first thing they looked for upon waking. The night sky is the oldest ceiling anyone has ever slept beneath. Fact 31. Light pollution now prevents more than 80% of the world's population from seeing the Milky Way from where they live. In Europe, that figure is closer to 90%. What we have lost is not just a view, it is a relationship. Cultures across every continent built their calendars, their navigation systems, their stories, their architecture, and their understanding of time and mortality around the movements of the night sky. The stars told farmers when to plant and when to harvest. They told sailors where the shore was. They told everyone, every night, that the universe was vast and ancient and going about its business with or without human involvement. There is something quietly important about lying under an open sky and feeling small in the very best way. Something rises from the tree-line, dark against dark, but moving, wheeling upward on wide, silent wings in a long, unhurried spiral, climbing higher and higher until it is just a shape against the stars. Fact 32. Nightjars are among the most enigmatic birds in the forest. During the day, they are essentially invisible. Their mottled brown and gray plumage is so precisely matched to dead leaves and bark that they routinely roost on the forest floor in plain sight and go completely unnoticed. But at dusk they rise, and they spend the entire night on the wing, hunting moths and beetles in complete darkness with a wide, gaping mouth fringed with stiff bristles that act like a net. Their call, a continuous, mechanical ching that can last for minutes without pause, is one of the strangest sounds the natural world produces. To hear it on a warm night at the forest's edge is to hear something that sounds less like a bird and more like the forest itself finding its voice. Fact 33. The nightjar belongs to an order of birds called Caprimulgiformes, whose name comes from the Latin for goat sucker. For centuries, country people across Europe believed that nightjars crept into barns at night and drank from the udders of goats and cattle, because the bird were often seen flying low around livestock at dusk. The truth, of course, is that the birds were hunting the insects that gathered around the animals. But the legend persisted for so long that it became the bird's scientific name, a reminder that even the most careful human observers, watching the natural world for centuries, sometimes see exactly what they expect to see rather than what is actually there. The moon Tonight is a thin crescent, barely there, just a curved sliver hanging low over the tree-line like the last note of song. But even that small amount of light is enough to change things. Fact 34. A full moon provides roughly 400,000 times less light than the midday sun, and yet it is enough for many animals to navigate, hunt, and socialize by. The dung beetle, remarkably, uses the Milky Way to navigate in a straight line on moonless nights, the only insect known to use the galaxy as a compass. It positions itself relative to the galactic band overhead and then walks in a straight line away from its dung ball's origin point, never deviating, never circling back. It does this to avoid accidentally walking in circles. The dung beetle looks up at the universe, takes its bearings, and walks forward. There are worse philosophies. Fact 35. Moonlight affects the forest in measurable ways. Studies have shown that many species of coral reef fish time their spawning precisely to the full moon. But forest organisms respond to lunar cycles too. Certain fungi fruit preferentially around the full moon. Some nocturnal mammals are measurably less active during full moons, staying closer to cover to avoid being seen by predators. And at least one study has suggested that human sleep is subtly disrupted around the full moon. That even in windowless rooms with no light exposure, the brains of sleeping participants showed altered sleep architecture in the days surrounding the lunar peak. The moon pulls the tides. Perhaps it pulls us too, in ways we're only beginning to measure. You're floating above it all now. The forest below is a dark, quiet sea. The stars above are doing what they have always done, turning slowly, tracing their ancient arcs, indifferent and magnificent. Fact 36. The stars you can see tonight are not where they appear to be. Because light takes time to travel, every star you're looking at is a picture of the past, some of them as they were decades ago, some centuries, some thousands of years. The light entering your eyes right now from the star you're looking at left its source before some of those old trees below were seedlings. You're not looking at the sky as it is. You're looking at the sky as it was, a vast, accumulated archive of light from different points in time, all arriving simultaneously, all appearing to occupy the same present moment. The night sky is a kind of memory. Everything up there has already happened. Fact 37. And yet, new stars are being born right now in clouds of gas and dust so distant that their light will not reach Earth for millions of years. Somewhere in the universe at this moment, the same process that created the sun, the same process that made the carbon in your body and the iron in your blood and the calcium in your bones, is happening again. Stars are the factories that make the elements that make everything that has ever lived. Every atom of oxygen you're breathing, every atom of the nurse log you rested against, every atom of the water in the stream below, all of it was forged inside a star that died long before the Earth existed. The forest, the stream, the bat, dreaming underground, you, all of it stardust, returned briefly to a shape that can look up and wonder where it came from. Let that thought settle like snow. You are made of the oldest material in the universe, lying on the surface of a planet that is itself ancient beyond comprehension, beneath a sky full of light from moments that are already gone. And the forest below, patient, dark, unhurried, is part of it too. Every leaf a solar panel collecting starlight. Every root a thread connecting this moment to centuries past. Every sleeping creature a small, warm proof that life finds a way to rest even in the middle of an infinite and indifferent universe. This is not frightening. This is the opposite of frightening. This is the most held you will ever be. We'll come back down soon. Back into the trees, back into the soft dark, back into the world of rustling and breathing and small things moving in the undergrowth. But stay here just a moment longer. Just you and the stars and the breathing forest below, and all that ancient light falling quietly on everything. You're back in the trees. The canopy closes over you like a hand drawn gently over a lamp. The stars disappear one by one as the branches thicken above you, and the dark settles back in, close and warm and complete. This is the deepest hour, not the latest, not the earliest, the deepest, that stretch of night somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning when the last people have finally gone to sleep and the first birds have not yet begun to stir. When the traffic has stopped and the lights in the windows have gone dark and the world for just a little while has genuinely, fully let go of the day. Naturalists and night walkers have a name for it. They call it the dead hours. But that's not quite right. Nothing here is dead. Everything here is simply at its most deeply, completely itself. Unobserved, unhurried, operating on its own ancient schedule without reference to anyone or anything outside its own nature. This is the forest at its most honest hour. Fact 38. The period between roughly 2 and 4 in the morning corresponds to the lowest point of the human body's circadian rhythm. The internal biological clock that regulates sleep, temperature, hormone release, and dozens of other physiological processes over a roughly 24-hour cycle. At this hour, core body temperature reaches its daily minimum. Reaction times are at their slowest. The immune system is at its most active, doing its repair and maintenance work. Melatonin, the hormone that signals the body to sleep, is at its peak concentration in the bloodstream. If you are awake at this hour, you feel it as a heaviness, a thickness, a gentle insistence from somewhere deep inside that says, this is not the time for doing. This is the time for dissolving. Fact 39. That same circadian rhythm governs virtually every living thing on Earth. Trees have circadian clocks. Fungi have them. Even single-celled organisms with no brain and no nervous system keep roughly 24-hour cycles of activity and rest, timed to the rotation of the planet. The circadian clock is so fundamental to life on Earth that it almost certainly predates the split between plants and animals, meaning the same basic biological time-keeping mechanism that tells you it is time to sleep right now has been running in one form or another for over 1 billion years. The planet turns and life turns with it. You are not fighting sleep. You are participating in something extraordinarily ancient. Something is out there. You don't see it at first. You feel it. That change in the quality of the dark, that sense of another presence, warm and quiet, and paying very close attention. And then, at the edge of your vision, it resolves a fox. Low to the ground, one paw raised, amber eyes catching the faint ambient light of the sky. It is watching the base of a fallen log with an intensity so total, so undivided, that everything else seems to fall away around it. It doesn't know you're there, or if it does, it has decided you are not the most interesting thing in the forest tonight. Fact 40. The red fox hunts by more than sight and smell. It can hear a mouse moving through grass from over 40 meters away, and its large, independently rotating ears can pinpoint the precise location of a sound to within 1 degree of accuracy, meaning it can identify not just the direction of a sound, but its exact distance and depth within the undergrowth. But most remarkably, foxes appear to use the Earth's magnetic field to hunt. Research has shown that foxes making their characteristic high leaping pounce, launching straight up and diving nose first into deep snow or tall grass, are dramatically more successful when they jump toward magnetic north. They seem to use the magnetic field as a ranging system, aligning their pounce so that the angle of the field tells them precisely how far the sound is from their position. They are, in the most literal sense, hunting with a compass built into their heads. The fox holds its pose for a long, suspended moment. Then it moves 3 quick steps, a pause, 2 more, and disappears behind the root ball of the fallen tree without a sound. You hear nothing, not a rustle, not a footfall. The forest settles back into itself. Fact 41. Foxes are among the most adaptable mammals on the planet, and part of what makes them so successful is their capacity for what researchers call play behavior well into adulthood. Most mammals play intensively as juveniles and largely stop as adults. Foxes continue playing throughout their lives, engaging in elaborate social play with partners and family members, and in solitary play with objects, carrying stones and pieces of wood and bones not for any practical purpose, but seemingly for the pleasure of carrying them. Play in adult animals is associated with cognitive flexibility, the ability to try new approaches, to improvise, to solve novel problems. The fox is not just a hunter, it is a thinker, and it is out here in the deepest hour of the night, thinking its fox thoughts, solving its fox problems, carrying its small treasures through the dark. You notice now something you hadn't before. The leaves around you, the ones on the ground, the ones on the low branches, the broad flat leaves of the undergrowth, are beginning to glisten. Not from rain. The sky is clear. It is something being deposited slowly and silently from the air itself. Fact 42. Dew forms when surfaces cool below what is called the dew point. The temperature at which air can no longer hold all the water vapor it contains, and that water begins to condense onto any available surface. In a forest, leaves are perfect dew collectors. Their broad surfaces cool rapidly after dark, and by the deepest hours of the night, they are covered in tiny droplets that by dawn will collect into larger ones and begin to fall to the forest floor. A single large leaf can collect several milliliters of dew in a single night. Across an entire forest, dew deposition amounts to a measurable source of water, supplementing rainfall, feeding the soil, keeping the lower layers of the forest humid even through dry periods. The night makes its own rain quietly while everything sleeps. Fact 43. Some plants have evolved specifically to harvest this dew. The lady's mantle, a low-growing plant of forest margins and shaded clearings, has leaves shaped into shallow cups whose surface is covered in microscopic hairs that trap water droplets and funnel them toward the stem. Medieval alchemists collected the dew from lady's mantle leaves before dawn, believing it to be the purest form of water in existence, untouched by the earth, gathered from the air itself, deposited by the night. They called it celestial water and used it in their experiments, convinced that it contained some essential property that ordinary water lacked. They were in their way, paying the right kind of attention. There is something remarkable about water that forms from nothing, in the dark, on the surface of a sleeping leaf. The fox is long gone. The moth has found its star. The heron is still. And the forest is doing what the forest always does at this hour. Less and less and less, until it reaches something very close to the minimum required for existence, and holds there, breathing in the dark. Fact 44. This reduction in activity at the deepest hour is not just behavioral, it is chemical. Many trees and plants reduce their metabolic rate significantly at night, closing the stomata on their leaves, slowing the movement of water through their systems, lowering their internal temperature. Some trees have been observed to physically droop at night, their branches measurably lower than during the day, as water pressure in their cells reduces and the leaves relax their daytime posture. A forest at 4 in the morning is not simply darker than a forest at noon. It is physiologically different, quieter inside as well as out, resting in a way that is real and measurable and not a metaphor. Fact 45. Silence itself has measurable effects on the brain. Studies in the emerging field of neuroarchitecture have found that 2 hours of silence causes the development of new cells in the hippocampus, the region of the brain associated with memory, learning, and spatial navigation. Silence, it turns out, is not the absence of something. It is a condition under which the brain can do certain kinds of work it cannot do in the presence of noise. The forest at this hour, this profound, settled, 3 in the morning silence, is not empty. It is actively good for you. Your brain, right now, is doing something in the quiet that it could not do any other way. The forest is not just a place to rest. At this hour, at this depth of night, it is a place to be repaired. Let the silence do its work. You are in the deepest hour now. The fox is somewhere in the dark, carrying a stone for reasons only it understands. The dew is forming on every leaf, drop by drop, the night making its quiet water from nothing. The trees have lowered their branches a fraction, let their cells relax, release the effort of the day. And the earth is turning the way it always does, carrying all of this, the forest, the stream, the sleeping hedgehog, the dreaming bat, the old trees with their centuries of patience, slowly, steadily, without drama or announcement toward morning. Not yet. Morning is still a long way off, but it is coming the way it always comes, not as a sudden thing, but as a slow accumulation of small changes, each one barely perceptible, each one building on the last, until all at once the dark is different, and the birds know before you do that something has shifted. That hour is not yet. For now, there is only this: the deep forest, the still air, the dew on the leaves, the silence doing its quiet, cellular work inside you. Rest here. The fox is thinking. The trees are resting. The night is making rain from air. And you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Something has changed. You can't say what exactly. The forest looks the same. The dark is just as deep. The stars, what few are visible through the canopy, are still there. The dew is still forming on the leaves around you, drop by careful drop. But something has shifted, some quality of the air, some barely perceptible change in the tension of the night. And the oldest part of you, the part that has been waking before dawn for 100,000 years, has noticed it before your conscious mind has had the chance to form a thought about it. The night has turned, not toward morning yet, not even close to it, but the arc of the darkness has passed its lowest point, the way a pendulum passes the bottom of its swing, and now, imperceptibly, invisibly, without any announcement whatsoever, it is moving the other way. The forest knows. Fact 46, birds know first. Long before any change in light is detectable to human senses, certain species begin to alter their behavior in the hours before dawn. Robins, whose eyes are proportionally enormous and extraordinarily sensitive to low light levels, are typically the first songbirds to stir, sometimes beginning their pre-dawn vocalizations up to an hour before the sky shows any change at all. They are responding not to light, but to the absence of a certain quality of darkness, a threshold so subtle that scientists are still working to understand precisely what the birds are detecting. They are not early risers in the way we use that phrase. They are instruments of extraordinary sensitivity, tuned to frequencies of change that we can barely measure. Fact 47, the dawn chorus, that extraordinary wall of birdsong that breaks over a forest in the 30 minutes before and after sunrise, is one of the loudest natural acoustic events on the planet relative to the size of the organisms producing it. At peak chorus in a temperate woodland, sound levels can reach 80 decibels, comparable to a busy restaurant produced entirely by small birds and trees. The reason for it is still not completely agreed upon by scientists, but the leading theories involve a combination of territory advertisement, mate attraction, and the particular acoustic properties of the pre-dawn air. Sound travels up to 20 times further in the cool, still air of early morning than it does during the day, when thermal currents and wind scatter it. The birds are not simply singing. They are broadcasting at maximum range, using the morning air as an amplifier that only works for one brief window each day. There it is, just one note, and then the forest goes quiet again, as if even the bird wasn't quite sure it was time yet and thought better of it. But it was enough. A door has been opened, just a crack, and the night will never be quite as complete as it was 5 minutes ago. Fact 48. Many animals experience a period of heightened activity in the hour or two before dawn, a second peak after the one that occurs just after dusk, bookending the night with movement. Badgers, who have been foraging steadily through the dark hours, often return to their sets in the pre-dawn window, engaging in social grooming and play before going to ground for the day. Deer move to forest edges to graze in the slightly lightening dark. Moths make their final flights of the night. This pre-dawn surge has a name among wildlife biologists, the crepuscular peak. The word crepuscular comes from the Latin for twilight, and it describes animals like foxes, rabbits, and deer, whose primary activity windows are the transitional hours, the hinges of the day, when the world is neither one thing nor the other. Fact 49. Badgers are among the most social of Britain's wild mammals, and their underground homes, called sets, are often far older than the badgers currently living in them. Some sets in old woodland have been in continuous use for hundreds of years, extended and modified by generation after generation of badgers. The tunnels dug deeper and the chamber count growing with each decade. The largest recorded badger set in the United Kingdom had over 80 entrances and a tunnel system estimated at over 100 meters in total length. These are not dens. They are inherited estates, passed down, added to, maintained, and repaired across centuries, the accumulated domestic effort of dozens of generations of the same family, all of them living in the dark beneath the same trees. Look down. At the base of the trees around you, where the roots disappear into the soil, the foxfire is glowing. You noticed it at the very beginning of the night, that faint cold, green light rising from the fungi in the decaying wood. But it looks different now. Not brighter, exactly, but more visible, perhaps because your eyes have had hours to adjust to the dark. Or perhaps because now that the night has turned, everything seems slightly more present, slightly more itself, as if the world is very slowly, very quietly beginning to remember that it exists. Fact 50. Bioluminescence in fungi, that foxfire glow, is produced by a chemical reaction involving a compound called luciferin, which reacts with oxygen in the presence of an enzyme called luciferase to produce light without heat. The same basic chemistry underlies the glow of fireflies, the blue shimmer of bioluminescent plankton in warm seas, and the soft light of deep-sea creatures that have never once been touched by sunlight. Luciferin, the light bearer, the name sharing its root with an older word for the morning star. Life, it seems, has been making its own light since long before it had any other choice. In the absence of the sun, it simply decided to glow. Fact 51. There are at least 80 known species of bioluminescent fungi in the world, and scientists are still discovering new ones. The light they produce serves no definitively understood purpose. It may attract insects that spread their spores. It may be a byproduct of metabolic processes that happen to produce light, or it may do something else entirely that we haven't identified yet. What is certain is that the glow is continuous. The fungi don't flash or pulse the way fireflies do. They simply emit a steady, cold, patient light, hour after hour, night after night, whether or not anything is there to see it. The forest glows in the dark whether you're watching or not. It has been glowing in the roots of its fallen trees every night for longer than anyone has been around to notice. You are in the overlap now, that strange layered hour when the night creatures are beginning, very slowly, very reluctantly, to think about rest, and the day creatures are beginning, in the same slow, reluctant way to think about waking. For a little while, both are true at once. The owl is making its last flights. The robin is thinking about its first note. The badger is heading home. The deer is heading out. The forest, for this brief window, contains both the ending and the beginning simultaneously, folded together in the dark like two hands held. Fact 52. This overlap, this temporal threshold, is one of the most ecologically important periods in a forest's daily cycle. Predator and prey species that occupy different time niches pass through the same spaces within minutes of each other, going in opposite directions. The trails that foxes use coming home are the same trails that rabbits use going out. The branches that owls vacate are the ones that songbirds will occupy within the hour. The forest does not divide itself neatly into a day shift and a night shift. It runs a continuous operation with a brief, extraordinary changeover period in which all of it is happening at once, all of it overlapping, all of it somehow managing to work. Fact 53. The color of the sky in the minutes before dawn follows a very precise sequence that painters and photographers have studied carefully. The first change is not light, but a deepening. The sky goes briefly to a more intense, saturated dark blue before it begins to lighten. This is called the blue hour, and it happens because the sun, still well below the horizon, scatters shorter blue wavelengths of light upward into the upper atmosphere first. Then comes a thin line of pale green on the eastern horizon, visible only if you are in an open space or above the canopy. Then the green becomes gold, and the gold becomes orange. And by the time you can see color in the things around you, the dawn chorus has already been in full voice for 20 minutes. Light announces itself long before it arrives. Fact 54. Wood mice, among the most numerous small mammals in the forest, are almost exclusively nocturnal. In the hour before dawn, they begin their return journeys to their nests, often carrying food. A wood mouse will memorize the layout of its home range with extraordinary precision, able to navigate complex routes through the undergrowth in complete darkness using a combination of smell, whisker sensitivity, and spatial memory. Studies have shown that wood mice create and follow established pathways through the forest floor, invisible roads used nightly, maintained by the repeated passage of small feet. The forest floor is crossed every night by a network of tiny commuters, all of them carrying things, all of them going somewhere, all of them doing it in the dark without maps, without lights, without anything except the deep, reliable knowledge of a home they've memorized entirely by feel. The foxfire glows. The badger is home. The wood mouse has found its nest, tucked something carefully away, and curled into itself in the dark beneath the roots. The robin is awake, but hasn't decided yet. It is sitting in the dark with its enormous, light-sensitive eyes, watching the quality of the sky, feeling the temperature of the air on its feathers, making a calculation so precise and so ancient that it doesn't need to think about it at all. And you are somewhere in between all of it. Not quite here, not quite elsewhere. Not asleep and not awake. Held in that warm, floating space where the edges of things have softened and the night has done most of what it came to do. The long turn toward morning continues. Slowly, without hurry, the way all the best things happen. Not all at once, but gradually, and then, when the time is exactly right, suddenly. Let the foxfire be the only light you need right now. Let the wood mouse be settled. Let the badger sleep. Let the robin wait a little longer. Not yet, but soon. This is the last of it. The last full dark. The last complete night. In an hour, less perhaps, the sky will begin its slow confession of color, and the world will start the long process of becoming day again. The birds will find their voices. The dew will begin to lift. The trees will open their stomata and begin the work of light. But not yet. Right now, in this last preserve of darkness, the forest is doing something extraordinary. Something it only does in this exact window. This narrow corridor between the deepest night and the first gray suggestion of dawn. It is preparing, not loudly, not obviously, but in 100 small, simultaneous ways. The forest is getting ready, adjusting, shifting, warming by fractions of degrees, opening things that were closed, closing things that were open, redistributing resources, changing the chemistry of its soil and its sap and its air in preparation for the most demanding part of its daily cycle. Sunrise is not a passive event for a forest. It is the beginning of the hardest work of the day. Fact 55. In the hour before dawn, the concentration of carbon dioxide in a forest reaches its daily peak. All night, the trees and soil organisms have been respiring, taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide, without the counterbalancing effect of photosynthesis, which only operates in light. By the pre-dawn hour, the air at ground level in a dense forest can have carbon dioxide concentrations measurably higher than the open atmosphere. The moment light begins to filter through the canopy, the trees begin drawing that carbon dioxide back in, converting it to sugar and oxygen with increasing speed as the light intensifies. The forest inhales the night and exhales the day. Every dawn is a breath taken. Fact 56. The soil temperature in a forest follows the air temperature, but with a delay, warming more slowly and cooling more slowly than the air above it. In the hour before dawn, when air temperature is at its nightly minimum, the soil is typically slightly warmer than the air, and this difference drives a subtle upward movement of moisture and warmth from the ground. Soil fungi, including the mycelium networks threading through the root systems of the old trees, respond to this pre-dawn temperature gradient by increasing their metabolic activity slightly, beginning the process of nutrient release that the tree roots will absorb with the first light. The underground world is already at work before the sun has cleared the horizon. The forest's morning begins beneath the surface. That wind is new. You would feel it on your face if you were paying attention, just a degree or two warmer than air around it, carrying a different smell. Less of earth and more something opening. Something green and faintly sweet. It comes from the east. It always comes from the east. Fact 57. The land breeze and sea breeze cycle that governs coastal areas has an inland equivalent in forested regions. A subtle daily wind pattern driven by the differential heating and cooling of the forest canopy versus the open land around it. In the hours before dawn, air that is pooled in open fields and valleys, cooler and denser than the air within the forest, begins to flow gently inward beneath the canopy, while the slightly warmer forest air rises. This circulation is too gentle to feel as wind most of the time, but sensitive instruments can measure it, and sensitive noses can smell it. A slow exchange of air between the forest and the world outside it. The forest breathing outward through the night and drawing new air in as morning approaches. A great, slow, vegetative inhale. Fact 58. Trees begin increasing their internal water pressure before dawn, before any light reaches them. This anticipatory response, called pre-dawn water potential, means that by the time the first photons of sunlight reach a leaf, the tree's water transport system is already primed, already moving, already ready to support the enormous demands of a full day of photosynthesis. The tree is not simply reacting to the sunrise. It is anticipating it. It has an internal clock, that same circadian rhythm shared by almost every living thing, that tells it in the darkness that light is coming and begins the preparation before the evidence arrives. The tree believes in the dawn before it can see it. It has been doing so reliably for as long as trees have existed. There, that sound, hollow and carrying and utterly itself, is one of the oldest alarms in the forest. Fact 59. Woodpeckers drum not to find insects but to communicate. The drumming is a territorial and courtship signal, and individual woodpeckers have distinctive drumming patterns. Subtle differences in tempo, rhythm, and intensity that other woodpeckers of the same species can recognize and identify at distances of several hundred meters. A great spotted woodpecker selects its drumming tree carefully, choosing dead or partially hollow branches that produce the loudest, most resonant sound, essentially selecting for acoustic properties the way a musician selects an instrument. They have favorite trees. They return to the same drumming posts year after year, sometimes wearing the wood smooth with the accumulated impact of thousands of drumming sessions across a lifetime. Fact 60. The woodpecker's ability to drum it up to 20 beats per second without sustaining brain injury is one of the most studied examples of biological shock absorption in nature. The bird's skull contains a remarkably thick layer of spongy bone that surrounds the brain, and its brain itself fits very tightly within the skull, with almost no cerebrospinal fluid, meaning it cannot build up the hydraulic pressure that causes concussion in other animals. Its beak is slightly asymmetrical, with the lower mandible longer than the upper, so that impact forces are deflected downward away from the brain. Its hyoid bone, the small bone that anchors the tongue, wraps entirely around the skull like a seatbelt, absorbing shock. The woodpecker is not tough. It is engineered. Every part of its anatomy is a precise solution to the problem of hitting wood with your face 20 times a second for your entire life. The sky above the canopy, you can't see it from here, but you know it's there, has begun its change. Not light yet, not color, just a very faint, almost theoretical reduction in the depth of the dark. A loosening, as if the night is still entirely present, but is holding itself slightly less tightly. Fact 61. The technical term for the period of diffuse light before sunrise is astronomical twilight, and it begins when the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon, roughly 90 minutes before sunrise, depending on latitude and season. At this point, the change in sky brightness is so subtle that it is invisible to the naked eye and detectable only by sensitive instruments. And yet, animals respond to it. Certain moth species cease flying at the onset of astronomical twilight. Bats begin their return to roosts. Some species of cricket alter their chirping patterns. The world is responding to a change that cannot yet be seen or felt, navigating by information that exists below the threshold of human perception. The forest has better instruments than we do. You've been here all night, through the foxfire and the stream and the old trees and the deep earth and the stars and the deepest hour and all the long, slow turning that brought you here to this last dark, this final stillness before the world begins again. And something has happened to you in it, something quiet and accumulative and hard to name. The way a long sleep changes you not dramatically but completely, so that you wake different from how you lay down and can't quite say what shifted but can feel unmistakably that something did. Fact 62. Sleep researchers have identified a phenomenon called sleep consolidation, the process by which the brain, during the hours of deep sleep, transfers information from short-term to long-term memory, clears metabolic waste products that build up during waking hours, and reinforces neural pathways used during the day. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance network, which operates almost exclusively during sleep, flushes cerebrospinal fluid through the brain tissue, removing proteins associated with neurological damage. Sleep is not simply rest. It is maintenance. It is the body doing, in the dark and quiet, the repair work it cannot do while it is busy being awake. Every hour of deep sleep is an act of extraordinary biological generosity, the body giving itself what it needs, if only you will let it. Fact 63. The temperature at which humans sleep most deeply and most restoratively is between 16 and 19 degrees Celsius, cooler than most people keep their waking environments. This is not coincidental. The drop in core body temperature that initiates deep sleep is assisted by a cool, sleeping environment, and the brain's maintenance and consolidation work proceeds most efficiently into cool. There is a reason that the deepest, most restorative sleep of summer night tends to come in the early morning hours when the air has finally cooled. The body has been waiting for it, waiting for the temperature to drop to the right level, waiting in its patient biological way for the conditions to be exactly right. It knows what it needs. It has always known. The woodpecker has stopped. The night insects have quieted. The fox is in its earth. The badger is in its set. The hedgehog is in its deep, suspended rest beneath the roots. The bat is dreaming its small, velvet dream. And the robin, that robin, the one that has been sitting in the dark with its enormous eyes, feeling the temperature of the air and the quality of the dark and the pre-dawn wind from the east, the robin has made its decision. You can feel it even before it happens. The held breath of the music, the loosening of the dark, the tree beginning to prime its water pressure upward, the mycelium shifting in the warming soil, everything leaning very gently in the same direction, toward something, and then the robin. Just one phrase, just an opening, and then silence, as if even the bird wants to let it land before it says anything more. The last of the night receives it, holds it, and very, very slowly, with no drama, with no announcement, with the same unhurried patience that has governed everything in this forest since long before either of you arrived, begins to let it in. It is happening. Not all at once, not dramatically, the way the most important things happen, gradually and then undeniably, and then you wonder how you ever thought it wasn't coming. The dark is still the dominant thing. If you held up your hand right now, you would see its shape but not its details, its presence but not its color. The trees around you are still silhouettes, tall, patient, familiar shapes against the sky that has moved from black to something that doesn't quite have a name yet. Not gray, not blue, something between them. Something that exists only for these few minutes each day and then becomes something else before you've had time to find the right word for it. But light is here, not sunlight yet, not the direct, committed, world-illuminating light of a risen sun. Something more tentative than that. The light of a sun that is still below the horizon, but has begun in the upper atmosphere to announce itself, to send word ahead. The forest has already received the message. Fact 64. The first photons of usable light to reach the forest floor each morning arrive not from the sun directly, but reflected from the upper atmosphere, scattered downward by air molecules and water vapor in a process called Rayleigh scattering. This is the same process that makes the sky blue during the day, and it means that the earliest light of dawn is disproportionately blue, a cold, clear, directionless illumination with no shadows, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Photographers call it the blue hour, and painters have chased it for centuries. It is the only light that falls without casting a shadow. For a few minutes each morning, the world is lit as if from inside itself. Everything equally visible, equally present, nothing hidden, nothing emphasized over anything else. Fact 65. Leaves detect this first light immediately. The phytochrome proteins in plant cells, the same proteins that govern flowering cycles and seasonal responses, are extraordinarily sensitive to the ratio of red to far red light wavelengths, and they begin registering the change in light quality while the shift is still invisible to the human eye. The moment phytochrome registers sufficient light, the stomata on the leaf surface begin opening, those thousands of tiny pores that allow carbon dioxide in and oxygen and water vapor out. A single beech leaf has between 40 and 70,000 stomata on its lower surface alone. Across the whole tree, across the whole forest, all of them opening simultaneously in the first minutes of dawn, the collective sound, if you could hear it, would be like a long, slow, luxurious exhalation. The forest opening its eyes. The blackbird. Of all the voices in the dawn chorus, the blackbird's is the one that sounds most deliberate, most considered. Not the urgency of the wren or the mechanical repetition of the great tit. The blackbird phrases its song like someone choosing words carefully. It pauses. It varies. It seems impossibly to be improvising. Fact 66, it is. Male blackbirds learn the basic structure of their song genetically, but develop individual flourishes and phrases over their lifetimes, incorporating sounds they have heard in their environment. Other birds water even certain human-made sounds into their own repertoire. An urban blackbird song is measurably different from a woodland blackbird's, adapted to carry over traffic noise by shifting to higher frequencies. Individual blackbirds can be identified by their unique songs, the way individual humans can be identified by their voices. The blackbird singing in the tree above you right now is singing something that no other blackbird has ever sung or will ever sing again. A unique composition assembled over years, performed at dawn in a dark forest for an audience of trees. Fact 67. The order in which birds join the dawn chorus follows a remarkably consistent sequence, and it is governed primarily by eye size. Birds with larger eyes relative to their body size can operate in lower light levels, and so they sing first. Robins and nightingales open the chorus in deep pre-dawn dark. Blackbirds follow, then song thrushes, then wrens, whose tiny eyes mean they wait for somewhat more established light. Then the chaffinches, the tits, the finches. The chorus builds in a sequence determined entirely by the optical physics of each species' eyes, a queue of singers ordered by the sensitivity of their vision, each one stepping forward at exactly the threshold of light their particular anatomy requires. The dawn chorus is not chaos. It is a precisely ordered event, governed by rules so consistent that you could set a clock by it. Look at your hands. There is enough light now to see them. Not color yet. Your skin looks gray-blue in the pre-dawn light, and the moss on the nurse log beside you is a dark, uniform tone. But shape has returned to the world. Edges, distance, the sense of things having fronts and backs, of space having depth. The forest has dimensions again. Fact 68. The human eye contains two types of photoreceptors. Cones, which detect color and operate in good light, and rods, which detect only brightness and darkness, but are extraordinarily sensitive to low light levels. In the darkness of the forest before dawn, you've been seeing entirely with your rods, which is why everything has appeared in shades of gray and black, and why you may have noticed that objects were easier to see when you looked slightly to the side of them rather than directly at them. The rods are concentrated in the peripheral retina rather than the center, so in very low light, peripheral vision is sharper than central vision. The darkness asks you to stop looking directly at things, to see from the corner of your eye. There is a lesson in that if you want it. Fact 69. As the light increases and color begins to return to the world, the cones begin their slow activation, and color appears first in the center of the visual field and spreads outward as the light strengthens. The first color most people perceive at dawn is not the warm orange of the sunrise, but something cooler and subtler, the green of leaves, which reflects wavelengths that the cones activate to first. Green is the first color morning gives back. Before the gold, before the pink, before the blue of the sky, green. The forest announces its own color to itself in the very first moments of each new day, before any other thing in the world has found its hue. The dew on the leaves is catching the light. Each drop, and there are millions of them, on every leaf and blade and stem within sight, is acting as a tiny lens, bending the first light of morning into a point of brightness. The undergrowth glitters. The spider's web you hadn't noticed stretched between two branches at a height is suddenly a jeweled thing, every thread hung with drops that glow. Fact 70. The spider that built that web, almost certainly a female, since female orb weavers are far larger and more commonly seen than males, likely rebuilt it from scratch last night. Most orb weaving spiders consume their own web each evening, digesting the proteins in the silk to recycle them and spin an entirely new web overnight. A full orb web can be completed in under an hour, and the spider does it largely from memory. The structure of the spiral, the spacing of the radial threads, the precise tension required, navigating entirely by touch in complete darkness. By the time the dew formed on those threads tonight, the web was already hours old. By the time the sun reaches it directly, the spider will likely have retreated to her hiding place and is waiting, one leg resting lightly on a signal thread for the news of something caught. Fact 71. Spider silk is, by weight, stronger than steel and more elastic than nylon, a combination of properties that no human-made material has yet replicated. A strand of spider silk the thickness of a pencil could theoretically stop a passenger aircraft in flight. The silk itself is a protein that is liquid inside the spider's body and solidifies on contact with air, meaning the spider is not spinning a thread so much as pulling one, drawing the liquid silk out and allowing it to become itself as it emerges. Different glands produce different silks for different purposes. One for the radial spokes, stronger and less elastic. One for the spiral, stretchier and sticky. One for the egg sac. One for wrapping prey. The spider is a materials scientist carrying several different high-performance substances in its body simultaneously, deploying each one precisely where it is needed. And then, a gap in the canopy to the east, just a small one, a place where an old tree came down years ago and left an opening in the ceiling of the forest. And through that gap, right now, something is appearing that is different from anything that has come before it tonight. Not diffuse, not scattered, not reflected from the upper atmosphere. Direct, a single committed ray of actual sunlight, almost horizontal, coming in at the low angle of an early sun still barely above the horizon, cutting through the gap in the canopy and falling across the forest floor in a long, warm, golden line. It touches the dew on a fern frond and turns it to fire. It lights the side of an oak trunk and the bark goes from gray to amber. It reaches the moss on the nurse log where you've been resting all night. And the moss, which has been every shade of gray and black and blue-green through the dark hours, becomes, in this light, the most vivid, impossible, saturated green you have ever seen. Fact 72. The first direct sunlight of the morning carries a higher proportion of red and orange wavelengths than midday light, the same effect that makes sunsets warm, because it is traveling through a greater thickness of atmosphere at its low angle, and the shorter blue wavelengths are scattered away before they reach you. This warm, raking light is what painters call golden hour light, and it has specific properties that make it uniquely beautiful. It creates long shadows that reveal texture, intensifies color contrast, and it seems to come from a direction that makes familiar things look entirely new. The forest you've been sitting in all night has not changed, but in this light, it looks like it has become itself for the first time. You've been here all night, through the foxfire and the stream, through the mycelium and the mother trees, through the stars and the moths in the deepest hour, through the dew forming on the leaves and the badger going home and the robin deciding it was time. And now here, at the end of it, at the beginning of it, this light, this first low, golden, raking light, falling across a forest that spent all night being dark and quiet and extraordinary and unobserved, and is now, without having changed a single thing about itself, extraordinary and observed. It was all here. It was all here all night, doing what it does, being what it is, in the complete and total dark. The foxfire glowing in the roots whether anyone saw it or not. The earthworms turning the earth in the lightless soil. The bat dreaming in the hollow tree. The mycelium moving carbon through the root network in a language older than anything with a mouth. All of it all night without you. And all of it here now, with you in this first gold light, exactly the same as it was in the dark. Only now you could see it. Stay a little longer. You don't have to go anywhere yet. The morning is here, genuinely here. The light no longer tentative but committed. The sky above the canopy shifting from that nameless pre-dawn color into something that is unmistakably, warmly, generously blue. The kind of blue that makes you feel, whatever else might be true, that the world is fundamentally all right. You have been in this forest all night. And the forest, patient, unhurried, extraordinary, has been giving you things the whole time. Quietly, without asking anything in return, the way the best places always do. There are a few more things it wants to tell you before you go. Fact 73. In the first hour after sunrise, a forest produces more oxygen than at any other point in the day. The combination of strengthening light and the carbon dioxide that has accumulated overnight creates ideal conditions for photosynthesis, and the trees respond with a burst of productivity, drawing down carbon and releasing oxygen at their maximum rate. The air in a forest in the hour after dawn is, quite literally, the freshest air on earth, newly made, just exhaled by 10,000 trees, carrying more oxygen and more phytoncides and more of that extraordinary molecular complexity than it will at any other moment of the day. If you're ever going to breathe deeply, this is the moment. If you're ever going to take a morning walk, this is the hour. The forest is giving away its best air right now to anyone who happens to be present. Fact 74. Trees communicate stress. When a tree is attacked by insects or disease, it releases specific volatile compounds into the air. Chemical signals that neighboring trees of the same species can detect and respond to by ramping up their own production of defensive chemicals before the threat reaches them. This happens in real time, measurably within hours of the initial attack. The forest is not a collection of isolated individuals competing for light and water. It is a community with a shared early warning system, a distributed immune response, a network of chemical conversation so complex and continuous that scientists have only begun to decode it. The trees have been talking all night. You just couldn't hear them. Fact 75. Certain lichens, those flat, gray-green crusts that cover the bark of the old trees around you, are among the oldest living things in any forest. A lichen is not a single organism, but a partnership between a fungus and an alga, each providing what the other cannot. The fungus offers structure and the ability to extract minerals from rock and bark, while the alga contributes photosynthesis, the ability to turn light into food. Together, they become something neither could be alone. The oldest known lichens have been dated to over 8,000 years old. The gray crust on the north side of the oak you rested against last night may have been there longer than any human settlement within 100 miles. It has been quietly doing its work, making soil, fixing nitrogen, housing dozens of invertebrate species, without interruption, through wars and famines and the entire span of recorded human history, on the side of a tree in a forest that doesn't know what centuries are. Fact 76. The color green, the color that has returned to the world this morning, the color that the forest is now wearing in full, is the wavelength of light that chlorophyll reflects rather than absorbs. A leaf is green precisely because it doesn't use that part of the spectrum. Green light is what the forest gives back. It takes the red and the blue, the wavelengths on either end, and uses them to build everything. Every cell, every root, every seed, every ring of what laid down in a trunk over a century. And the green, that vivid, impossible, life-saturated green that makes mornings in a forest look like paintings of themselves. That is the excess. That is what's left over after the work is done. The forest is wearing its surplus. All that green is a gift it didn't need to give. The wood pigeon, that sound, low and round and deeply, profoundly unbothered, is one of the most soporific sounds in nature. 5 notes, repeated with a pause between each phrase that somehow never feels like waiting, but always feels like resting. Fact 77. The wood pigeon's call is one of the most commonly reported sounds in studies on natural soundscapes and relaxation, appearing reliably in lists of sounds that people across cultures find instinctively calming. Unlike the urgent, high-frequency calls of many songbirds, the wood pigeon operates in low frequencies that the human ear associates with safety and proximity to shelter. Its call carries the particular acoustic quality of enclosed spaces. The resonance of a bird sitting deep in foliage, sounds softened by leaves on every side. When you hear a wood pigeon, your nervous system receives a message below the level of conscious thought that you're somewhere sheltered, somewhere with cover, somewhere you can rest without watching. The dew is beginning to lift, not all at once, not dramatically, but where the sunlight has reached the leaf surfaces, the tiny droplets are warming, loosening their grip, becoming vapor again, rising, returning to the air. The forest is releasing the water it collected all night back into the atmosphere, where it will eventually become cloud and rain and fall again somewhere, sometime, into another forest on another night, and be collected again by another surface and rise again. Fact 78. A single large tree transpires, releases water vapor through its leaves, between 200 and 500 liters of water on a warm summer day. A forest of 100 acres transpires enough water to measurably affect local humidity, cloud formation, and even rainfall patterns. The Amazon rainforest generates its own weather. Enormous columns of warm, moist air rising from the canopy seed the clouds that produce the rain that feeds the forest that produces the air that forms the clouds. The forest makes the rain that makes the forest. A system so elegantly self-sustaining that it has been running, in one form or another, for hundreds of millions of years. The water in the clouds above you right now was, not long ago, inside a tree. Fact 79. Old-growth forests store carbon at a rate that younger forests and plantations cannot match. Not just in their living wood, but in their soils, their dead wood, their root systems, and the deep, accumulated layers of partially decomposed organic matter laid down over centuries. A single ancient tree may contain more stored carbon than an entire acre of young plantation. This carbon, drawn down from the atmosphere over decades and centuries, is held in the wood and the soil as long as the forest stands. The old trees around you are not simply beautiful. They're not simply old. They're doing something actively important, holding in their bodies and their roots and the deep earth beneath them a portion of the atmosphere that would otherwise be warming the planet. The forest is not separate from the climate. The forest is part of the answer. Fact 80. This shifting, dappled light is called sunflex by forest ecologists, and it plays a crucial role in the survival of plants in the forest understory. A sunfleck may last only seconds as the canopy moves, but in those seconds it can deliver more light energy to a shade-adapted plant than the plant receives in an entire hour of diffuse shade illumination. Understory plants have evolved to respond to sunflex with extraordinary speed. Their photosynthetic machinery activating within seconds of a flex arrival and remaining primed for several minutes afterward, ready for the next one. They are opportunists of a light, patient in the shade, ready always for the brief, bright moments when the canopy opens and the sun comes through and something becomes possible that wasn't possible a second before. Fact 81. The oldest forests on Earth are not in the tropics, as is often assumed, but in the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest of North America and the ancient woodlands of Tasmania and New Zealand. Places where mild temperatures, high rainfall, and the absence of catastrophic disturbance have allowed ecosystems to accumulate complexity over thousands of years. In these forests, individual trees can be over 2,000 years old, and the ecosystems they anchor have been continuously developing since before the Roman Empire. They are not static. They are not preserved. They are living, growing, responding, losing species and gaining them, cycling through disturbance and recovery, but always persistently building toward greater complexity, greater diversity, greater depth. A very old forest is not a relic. It is a direction of travel. Fact 82. In Japanese forest management, there is a practice called daisugi, growing new trees from the shoots of an existing one, allowing multiple straight trunks to rise from a single root system. The parent tree continues to live while its offspring grow upward, all of them sharing the same roots, the same water, the same centuries of accumulated root depth. It was developed partly in response to a shortage of flat land for forestry, but it produces something more interesting than its practical origins suggest. A grove of daisugi cedars looks like a family, like something that chose to stay together, like a deliberate decision made in wood and time to remain connected to the thing you came from. Fact 83. Forests recover. This is perhaps the most important fact of all the ones the forest has offered tonight. Given time, given the absence of repeated disturbance, almost any cleared or degraded land will, left alone, begin the slow process of returning to forest. Pioneer species arrive first. Grasses, then shrubs, then fast-growing trees that create shade. Under that shade, slower, longer-lived species establish themselves. Over decades, the pioneer trees are replaced by more complex woodland. Over centuries, if left undisturbed, genuine old-growth character begins to emerge. The deep soils, the standing dead wood, the multi-layered canopy, the mycelial networks, the accumulated diversity of species that took centuries to arrive. The forest is not gone when it is cut. It is waiting. Underneath every field and car park and cleared hillside, the possibility of forest persists, patient as the mycelium, ready to begin again the moment the conditions allow. Fact 84. There is a word in Welsh, hiraeth, that describes a longing for something you may never have experienced, or a homesickness for a place you've never been. It is often used to describe the feeling of deep, inexplicable connection to a landscape, particularly wild, ancient landscapes. Many languages have words for the specific emotional experience of being in an old forest. The Japanese kamaribi, meaning the light that filters through leaves. The German Waldensamkeit, meaning the peaceful solitude of being alone in a forest. The Finnish Metsenpaido, the feeling of being under the forest protection. Every culture that has lived near forests has developed a specific vocabulary for what it feels like to be inside one. This is not coincidence. Humans lived in and around forests for the vast majority of our evolutionary history. The feeling you have right now, that quiet, cellular rightness, that sense of being somewhere your body has always known, is not imagination. It is memory. It is recognition. You have always belonged here. Fact 85. Studies on the restorative effects of natural environments consistently show that even brief exposure to forest sounds, bird song, wind and leaves, running water, reduces activity in the parts of the brain associated with rumination, self-referential thought, and anxiety. Brain imaging studies show that a walk in a natural environment produces measurably lower activity in the prefrontal cortex's subgenual region than the same length walk in an urban environment. The forest is not just metaphorically good for a troubled mind. It physically, measurably quiets the part of the brain that generates worry, the part that replays conversations, rehearses disasters, and insists at 3 in the morning that everything is worse than it is. The forest turns that voice down, gently, without drama, simply by being itself. And now, at the end of all of it, at the end of the night and the beginning of the morning and the end of this long, slow, extraordinary walk through one forest on one night, on one small planet turning in the dark. A few final things. Fact 86. Every tree in this forest began as a seed smaller than a fingernail. Every ancient oak, every towering pine, every nurse log that has been returning to soil for a century, all of it began as something you could hold in your palm. The information required to build an entire forest, the root architecture, the bark chemistry, the precise angle of each branch, the timing of each leaf, is encoded in something microscopic, and given nothing but time and water and light, it builds itself. Life does not require instruction from outside itself. It carries its own instructions. It knows what it is and what it is trying to become, and if left alone long enough, it becomes it. Fact 87. The number of trees on Earth is approximately 3 trillion. That is 3,000 billion individual trees. Roughly 400 trees for every human being alive. Satellite surveys suggest the number is actually higher than scientists estimated as recently as a decade ago, as remote sensing has revealed forest cover in places previously uncharted. The Earth is greener than we thought. There are more trees than we knew, and each one of those trees, every one of the 3 trillion, began in the dark in the soil as a seed. Each one pushed its first root downward before it pushed its first shoot upward. It found the dark before it found the light. It trusted the earth before it trusted the sky. Fact 88. In a forest, nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Everything that has ever been alive in this ecosystem is still here in some form, in the soil, in the wood, in the water moving through the roots, in the air above the canopy. The carbon in your body right now, in your bones, your blood, your breath, was once inside a star, then inside a rock, then inside the ocean, then inside a plant, then inside dozens of other living things in sequence, each one passing it forward. It will be inside dozens more after you. You are not separate from the forest. You are made of the same material, cycling through a different temporary shape. When you breathe out right now, the carbon you release will be drawn in by the nearest leaf and built into wood and held there for a century and released again when the tree falls and taken up again by whatever grows in its place. You are already part of the cycle. You have always been part of the cycle. The forest knows this, even if you sometimes forget. Fact 89. Sleep researchers have found that the brain, in the moments of drifting between waking and sleep, that threshold state called hypnagogia, produces some of its most creative and insightful thinking. Thomas Edison famously napped in a chair holding steel balls so that when he drifted asleep and his hands relaxed, the balls would drop and wake him, allowing him to capture the ideas that arrived at that threshold before they disappeared. Salvador Dali used a similar technique with a key and a plate. The most interesting thinking, it turns out, happens not in full wakefulness and not in deep sleep, but in the movement between them, in the dissolving, the softening, the letting go of the hard edges of the day. Right now, if your eyes are heavy and your thoughts are becoming less like sentences and more like images, you are in exactly the right place. The forest has walked you to the door. What on the other side is yours? Fact 90. And finally, this one last, most quiet fact of all. The forest will be here tomorrow night. The foxfire will glow in the roots of the fallen trees. The stream will move over its stones. The owl will find its branch. The mycelium will carry its slow conversation through the dark. The hedgehog will slow its heart to its winter minimum. The robin will wait in the dark with its enormous eyes until it is absolutely certain it is time. And the old trees, the ones that were here before you arrived tonight, the ones that will be here long after, will stand in the dark and hold their 1,000 small lives and breathe their slow, measured breath and lean their crowns toward the sky and know nothing of hurry or worry or the particular kind of exhaustion that comes from being a person moving through a complicated world. They just stand. They just grow. They just are. And on a night when that feels like enough, when the simple, patient, unhurried fact of existing feels like the only thing worth doing, the forest will be waiting. It is always waiting. It has time. Sleep well. The forest is awake.